Okay, so with that, I'll very quickly go to the topic for tonight. Uh, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, but never really, put it together. So I'm glad for this opportunity to be able to put some of the thoughts over, the last several years. In the becoming apparent that, in the last days, the technology and the advancements of science and technology would have bearing on the events of the last days. All right, so I'd like to share some of that. The problem now is that there's just too much material, so I decided to just kind of like be selective of what I want to share today and only concentrate on one or two themes. So maybe in the future, if there's enough interest, then I'll continue on the other aspect of them. Right. Okay, first of all, what this talk is not about, all right, is not about theological eschatology, right? Eschatology is, of course, the study of the end times. And there's so many views, and people have talked about it for so long. So I don't intend to go into that, all right? Well, I'm not a theologian, so I'm not the right person to talk about this anyway, all right? But they are there, all right? So this is the first thing I want to say. This talk is not going to be about the various shades of interpretation of the Bible regards to eschatology. All right. But what this talk is about science and technology advancing in time and will continue to do so in the future. But how do some of the biblical narratives relate uh, to what's going to happen in the end times and what should we do about them? All right. The science and technology is something that we see. So it's real in front of us. Okay. But the interpretation of the biblical narratives can take many shades. And of course, it was written thousands of years ago about something that's going to happen maybe in our time, all right, or maybe beyond our time. But what was clear to me as I see some of the things that the technologies that we see today would very likely play out in the end times. Okay. Now, of course, we will not know for 100% certainty, but the development will certainly point to some of the things that the Bible talks about. Okay. Okay. Because today's talk is very IT centric. And I have a confession, another confession. I'm not an IT expert. Yes, my background is physics. I use IT assets very heavily, but I'm not an expert in it. Okay. Uh, Today we have Dr. Peter Ho with us. So hopefully, if you have some question around IT, he's able to chip in and help out there. Okay. Okay. So why this talk? All right. In the Olivet Discourse, in Matthew chapter 24, 25, Luke 21, and Mark 13, is about the end times. And these are the very words of Jesus themselves. Okay. Because they're very long, I won't read through all of them, but I'll read through some. All right. I'll pick from Matthew chapter 24, reading from verse 36. Of course, the Olivet Discourse starts early in this chapter. All right. But about the day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of men. All right. I think the message is very simple. All right. Here, it means that, life goes on as usual and nobody expected it. And then it happened. All right. And the flood happened. Of course, by the time they realized it, it was too late. The doors were closed and there's literally nothing they can do about it except to perish in the deluge. All right. In verse 40, two men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. Two women will be grinding with a handmill, one will be taken and the other left. the unexpected, the suddenness of it all right? And maybe to some extent, the strangeness, okay? Of course, 40 and 41 refers to those of us who are, believers, we call this the rapture, okay? In verse 42, therefore keep watch because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch. It would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready because the Son of Man will come at an hour you do not expect him. Okay. So I'll focus on the last few verses. After you hear everything, before that, it was talking about wars and rumors of wars, of earthquake, pestilences, and so forth. All right. Before Jesus come, before the end of times. Okay. And Jesus ended out by saying, what should we do? He says, therefore, keep watch. All right. The the Greek word for keep watch, the watch means to keep awake or be vigilant. All right. That's what it means to keep watch, to be awake, not asleep when you don't know what's happening. Okay. But to be awake and to wait. Okay. Why? Because you do not know when. All right. And it's not just a passive watching, but it's a watching so you can be ready to act. All right. So many times when we say watch and pray, it's like just watching and do nothing. No, it's watching and getting ready. Okay. So that when the time comes, you are ready to act. But you can only be ready to act when you are prepared. All right. Okay. The other passage is from Luke chapter 21, 34 to 36. Be careful, or your hearts will be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and anxieties of life, and that day will close on you suddenly like a trap. Of course, the day is the day of the Lord. For it will come on all those who live on the face of the whole earth. So it's an event that will be global in nature. And again, verse 36, be always on the watch, always, and pray that you will be able to escape all that is about to happen and that you may be able to stand before the Son of Man. Now, interestingly, in the Luke passage, the word watch is a different Greek word. It's not just to keep awake and vigilant, it has that connotation, but it has this connotation of urgency. It talks about trap, it talks about escape. So, why the urgency? Because there is imminent danger, all right, impending danger. That's why the word trap you, and you cannot run into the trap, because once you're trapped, that's it, okay? And you need to watch so that you can escape what is to happen, so that the escaping means that you can stand, okay? It does not necessarily mean that, you will not be affected by it, but it also means that you be able to stand before the Son of Man. So in that sense, escape, okay? All right. Now, I'm not going to do an exposition on this because there are other more capable people. I'm just bringing out this point of watch. You need to watch, okay? Now, watch what? All right. The events to come, they can come unexpectedly. Therefore, you have to watch widely. Why? You have to be prepared and ready. So the picture you have of the events that come unexpectedly is, imagine yourself as a group of soldiers, and you're watching a battlefield. You don't know where the enemy is going to come, from the air, from the ground, from the left, from the right, okay? And it can come from any direction, so you don't know where. So you have to watch widely. Sometimes the enemy comes suddenly, all right? You know where it's coming, but you don't know when. So you have to watch carefully. Okay. You keep watching the area where you expect things to happen. Okay. And when it happens suddenly. But if you are watching, you can respond immediately. If you are not watching, you are not prepared, it comes and they come dangerously. Okay. It's like the same group of soldier, the enemy is right in front of you. That means you got to watch urgently. Every single movement, every single action by the enemy, you need to know it's urgent. All right? Because you need to protect yourself and you need to do it with urgency. Okay. And lastly, the events to come that are predictable. All right. And and since you know it's going to come, then you have to watch them discerningly. So you're assured when it happens, you're not unexpected, all right, and you are ready. Okay. So Jesus says, therefore, to watch. All right. All the things that are coming, all the things he talked about. Okay. So to reiterate, we are asked to watch and not get caught by surprise so that we can escape and we can stand firm in our faith. All right. Now, the coming of the Son of Man, that's Jesus, and events preceding his coming to watch out for is very clearly spelled out in the Olivet Discourse, okay, in a few chapters in the Bible. So these are all the things that are listed there: false Messiah, wars, kingdoms against kingdoms, famines and earthquakes and pestilences, persecution, turning away faith, increase in wickedness, sun and moon darkened, and fearful signs from heaven. So I classify them into a few different categories. Okay, like false Messiah and false prophets, false and nations and kingdom rising against each disasters, persecution of the saints, apostasy, and then signs from heaven. The sun darkened and the moon will not give light, and fearful events and signs from heaven, astronomy. All right. So there are lots of things that happen, and today is not possible for me to cover all of that from the science and theory perspective. So today I'll talk mainly only about the deception part, and that in itself is already quite a lot of content. So today is only about deception. Okay, so we watch the science and technology because it affects us now. Okay, and this is the reality. It affects us. And whatever happens in the scientific world impacts us. Okay. And not just the physical invention, but the philosophical thoughts behind some of these discoveries. Okay. So we have to watch. All right. And as we have to watch this even closer, more intently as we get closer to Day of the Lord's return, because a lot of this discovery and technology invention will play out in the last days. So we need to understand some of these things. All right. We were told to watch for deception, the very first one. And that's all I'm going to talk about today. Okay. Jesus says, you belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. That's the devil. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he's a liar and the father of lies. He's there to deceive, and that is Satan's job, to deceive us. All right. In Second Thessalonians chapter 9, so chapter 2, verse 9 to 10, he says the curtain works. He will use all sorts of displays of power to signs and wonders that serve the lie. Now, what is this lie? Okay, you read earlier in Thessalonians, it's the lie that he is God. All right. You read the early verses in Second Thessalonians chapter 2, you will see that this lawless one will come and serve the lie that he is God. And all the ways that wickedness deceive those who are perishing. They perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Just like in the days of the Noah, people refuse the truth that Noah was telling them, and so they perish. Okay. And they choose to refuse the truth. All right. And the price is paid because of that. Okay. And Jesus himself says, for false prophets and false Messiah and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect, you and I. All right. We will be deceived and we can be deceived if we do not watch carefully. Okay. All right. So I want it to be clear that we need to watch out for deception. All right. At this point, you'll be wondering, how does that link to technology? Okay. So the first statement I want to make is deception spreads through communications of false information. That is lies. That's how deception spreads. All right. Communication of false information. So, brothers and sisters, we now have the fastest information flow rate in the history of mankind. All right. We have the fastest information flow rate. I'll explain and elaborate on this in a bit of length in a short while. Satan has a very powerful tool at his disposal to deceive today. All right. That is telecommunication technology. And with that, the social media platforms. All right. A very powerful, a very, very powerful tool. Not only can the information can flow at such rate, all right? And we see it playing out now so much that we have become insensitized to it. So today I want to bring to your attention, okay, this technology and how it's used, all right? So watch this technology functions and trends, okay? All right, I'll walk you through a brief history of telecommunication, all right? Now, in the early days, before there were electronics and all the wonderful scientific discovery, communication was very visual, all right? You have smoke signals, you have pigeons, you have printing press, where people got to physically see the thing. So you have something you want to communicate. It may take a day to a week. You take a pigeon that need to fly from one destination to another, or you print something, all right? And newspaper only came out in the 1600s. You print something, it takes time to disseminate, all right? So it takes a day to a week to reach maybe one to a few tens of people, all right? And by the way, this is my own guesstimate. It's not scientific. Take them as indicative, all right, and comparative, okay? Later on, when we had the wired era, that means that when electricity was discovered and it was used for communication, it takes maybe an hour to a day to reach maybe a few tens of people to hundreds of people. Okay, it takes maybe an hour, all right, or maybe a day to reach a few tens to hundreds of people. Okay, I remember when I started my career, the we use fax a lot, so that was a means of wired communication. And normally when I send a message, all right, it will the way the process is like this. You don't have a fax at your disposal. So in the department or the company, there's one fax machine in the whole building, and the admin is in charge of that. And we write a message to whoever our counterpart in Japan or anywhere in the world. We go to the fax room, we deposit our message, type out on a piece of paper, put it in a tray to be sent. The admin comes in maybe 10 o'clock. So she sends it at 10 or she sends it at 4. Twice a day, she'll send out message and receive messages. Okay. And the message will reach the overseas destination. And then the same process is there. All right. And then the admin will go to collect the messages twice a day, 10 in the morning or 4 in the afternoon to deliver. And so by the time today, of course, the message is not day, it's not hours, it's seconds. I send a WhatsApp message and it's there. All right. And then I get a reply almost instantly within minutes. All right. Or within an hour. So if you wonder why the working life is so stressful today, is because of the information flow rate. All right. In those days, I can wait a whole day to get a reply before I do anything. Now, you receive not one, not two, you may receive a dozen messages a day, which requires your action. All right. I don't know about you, but for me, I receive easily 200 to 400 messages every day. Of course, half of them are junk, but still, you have to attend to them because you don't know, right? Whether it's important or not. Okay, so that's the wired era. Then you come to the wireless era. Okay, now you don't need wire, like your handphone, you don't need wire. It maybe take a few minutes to an hour to reach a few hundred people to thousands of people. All right, that's how fast the information is flowing. Okay, and of course now we have all the social media platform, we have video conferencing, which is so readily available. It takes minutes to tens of minutes to reach a few thousand people to millions of people. Okay, that's how fast. So a viral post can spread very, very quickly, and it can reach hundreds of thousands of people within a very short period of time, within an hour. So that is that is a possibility today. So that is how telecommunication has advanced. The information flow rate has just grown exponentially. Okay, and if you look at this chart here, you will find the adoption of communication technologies. This is worldwide. Look at the mobile phone subscription. What's the population of the world? About 8 billion. We have 8 billion mobile phone subscriptions. Now, that does not mean everybody has a mobile phone. Subscription means that there are people who subscribe to mobile phone services. Some people have 2 or 3 subscriptions. Don't ask me why. So some people, one for work, one for personal, and one for something else. I don't know. Okay. But there are 8 billion subscription. As many subscriptions there are as people in the world. Internet users, more than half of the world population have access to internet. All right. And this is 2022 data. By now, of course, you can see the trend is going up. All right. So I don't know, I don't have the 2024 figure, but I won't be surprised it's hitting 6 billion. No, 3/4 of the world is connected to the internet. All right. So the penetration rate is extremely high. And look at the growth of it, it's exponential. All right. And then look at the social media platform. Facebook, there's about close to 3 billion people. And this is 2018. I couldn't get a later data. Maybe Peter can give further insight if he has. YouTube and so forth. All the social media platforms is just shooting up like crazy. Okay. That means that you and I are getting information like crazy all over the place, all the time, non-stop. All right. WhatsApp users, okay, it's about 3 billion, more than 3 billion people on WhatsApp. WeChat, about 2 billion. All right. And you have other like Telegrams, you have Line and other social media platforms. Okay. So the technology for mass deception is available now. Okay. But how do we prepare people so that they will not be deceived? Look, all right, this is a common scene we see everywhere, every day. All right. And these people are consuming information and contents all over the place. Sure, if 1 hour. Okay, I don't, this is not scientific, it's just my guess. Okay, minimum 1 hour consuming contents of one sort or another. Basically, the internet, the social media has replaced TV. Okay, TV in a sense is a more controlled content delivery and a more standardized, and you have more time to respond. In the internet, your time for response it's significantly reduced. Your time to digest is also significantly reduced because you're just getting too much information. So when deception comes, it can just hit you before you know what's happened to you. Okay. So we need to be prepared and we need to watch this. Okay. Uh, you can keep vigilant about what you consume on the internet. You have to make sure that the facts you are receiving is correct. And frankly, I don't think many people bother. They just look at it. And how I know? Because I receive so many things that are not correct every day. Okay. And I ask myself, how come people don't bother to go and just have a look? Is it correct or not? Okay. So on the internet, there are many sites where you can fact check. So I put some of these here, like Snoops is a famous, is a favorite one. This is general. You can just go and Google Snoop, and then you just go and type in, the sort of information you're looking at. Then you can ask whether is it correct? Is it a rumor or is it true? And it will tell you. Of course, it doesn't tell you everything. Then the others like factcheck.org, which are political. Sometimes there are a lot of propaganda in political news now. It's US elections, so you get all sorts of things coming out, and then you wonder, it's true or not. Okay. And so you have a whole bunch of sites. So in Malaysia, you can get one under AFP. This is general. Okay. So so uh you get a lot of hoax fake news. So you need to check before you accept it, consume it, and forward it. Okay. Now give an example. Sometimes you can also do a quick check on the internet. For example, this happened about a couple of years back where supposedly TNB would reimburse you 100 ringgit. Actually, this is a scam, a hoax, right? You click on that link, then you're going to get some sort of a malware into your system. It's quite easy. When you see something like this, all right, all you got to do is just go to Google or any browser platform and type something like scam TNB message, all right, or whatever you choose to use, all right. Is this TNB message? So there are a whole bunch of people on the internet, and you type in the website address, okay, and they will tell you whether this website is trustworthy or not. And some of them give them a score. If the score is low, ignore it, all right? Don't pay attention to it. So this will help you to protect yourself from making sure that the information you have is trustworthy. Now, you cannot use one or two. As thing progresses, it gets more complex. So you have to arm yourself with a whole bunch of tools so that you don't get yourself trapped, all right, by deception. Okay. Now, I want to point out to you that the church specific and goes out to Christians and church members. Okay. And it's like a practice run, for the false messiah and the false prophet. Recently published, and not that recent, a couple of years back, published, 3 years back, published this article. It says our propensity for fake news reflect our propensity for fake forms of the gospel. Now, propensity means your inclination. You tend your inclination towards fake news. That means that you're drawn towards fake news. How you are drawn towards fake news will reflect how you are drawn towards the fake forms of the gospel. Okay, find it alluring and sensational. Oh, we love it. And it's sensational. Alluring means, oh, very appealing. Okay. And so we want to share it. 70% more likely to be shared, something that is false. Okay. And so the article goes on to say, in the US, all right, a significant number of evangelicals have a profound misunderstanding about God. Overall, US adults appear to have a superficial attachment to well-known Christian beliefs. For example, a majority agreed that Jesus died on the cross for sin and he rose from the dead. However, they rejected the Bible's teaching on the gravity of man's sin, the importance of church gathering together for worship, and the Holy Spirit. All right. So the Luzon movement, the leaders in Asia, Africa, and North America agreed that nominalism is plaguing the global church. Nominalism means nominal Christian, Christian in name only. A lot of people who identify as Bible believing Christians in America actually don't understand the gospel, says Duncan. The same is true all over the world. Technology allows the spirit of deception, that means the spirit of Antichrist, to penetrate the church more easily. The effect is felt now. So if you wonder, why is it's so difficult to get people off their seats and into service for the Lord? How come there's so much lethargy in churches? All right. I think part of it is this spirit of deception is able to penetrate the church. All right. Okay. Christians will say, it's okay. I don't need to go to church. I can worship God at home. It's okay. I don't need to serve God. After all, I'm already saved. Okay. I don't have to do anything else. And salvation is free. Yay. Right. And so therefore, I'm on my way to heaven. Forget about what's happening in the rest of the world or to the kingdom. Okay. I got a free ticket, a free passport. All right. Nothing for me to do. So nominalism. And this is what happening in our churches today. Okay. And I think part of it is the constant bombardment of deception through the internet. All right. And Christians come to me and tell me that, oh, they hear so and so speaker, they feel so comforted, they feel so at peace and so forth. But they are not realizing that they may be listening to a false gospel, to a cheap grace message, all right, that creates this sense of nominalism. Technology has allowed the spirit of deception to penetrate the church more easily. And so the Luzon study bears this out. Okay. So what should we do? I think we should only make it a habit to post and forward only things you are sure that are correct so that you do not become an instrument of Satan to spread falsehood. And then make it a habit to think through and fact check content. Don't simply go and send out stuff. All right. And then thirdly, read the Bible for yourself and know it well. All right. Talking to a lot of young Christians, it is really shocking to me that the only time they get nourishment is on a Sunday morning in front of a pastor or preacher, if they even turn up on a Sunday morning, and listening to preachers and speakers, all right, on the internet, whom they know nothing about, right? I myself have attended a church meeting, a huge one, and throughout the entire meeting, not a single verse of the Bible was quoted. It was all about the opinion of the speaker on the pulpit, right? How easy it is now to manipulate people reading the Bible for themselves. They have not been watchful. In Proverbs 12:22, it says, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. Sending false messages that we have not fact checked, not done the due diligence is actually lying. And the Bible says the Lord detests it, hates it. All right. Our God is a God of truth. So if we simply go and use the internet medium to simply spread things without checking, then the Lord detests it. In Colossians chapter 3, it says, do not lie to each other since you have taken off your old self with its practices, right? So we are told very clearly and in no uncertain terms, we are not to lie, all right? And the internet now becomes a tool for falsehood and lies to go through. And as saints, we have no part on it and we don't want any part of that, all right? In 1 John 4:1, John says, dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. Even in those days, many false prophets have gone out. Today, there will be even more because of the internet. 1 John 2, dear children, this is the last hour, as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming. Even now, many Antichrists have come. This is how we know this is the last hour, right? So is this the last hour with all the falsehood and deception? And of course, our hour and God's hour is different. To God, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years could be like a day. All right. So he's not slow in keeping his promise, as some seem to think. It's just that his time scale and ours is different. And of course, his desire is for all to come to the knowledge of Christ. Okay. In the same chapter, it says, who is the liar? It is whoever denies that Jesus is the Christ. Such a person is the Antichrist, denying the Father and the Son. In the 21st century, the internet will be used as a tool by Antichrist. Okay. The internet allows for the emergence of many more Antichrists because there are many more deceptions to come. Something is popular does not mean it is right. So today, don't pay attention to all the lies and the love or whatever. Something that a lot of people follow is the one that you got to watch out for, right? Jesus says, do not enter through the wide gate because that's the gate that leads to destruction, but enter through the narrow gate, okay? And many people will follow and go into the wide gate, and that wide gate is going to lead them into destruction, all right? So don't be easily impressed by big numbers, in Christian gatherings or churches, or many likes, or somebody being popular, all right? We check and make sure that it is a truth before we jump into it. All right. Okay. I'm going to come to the last few slides. We are asked to watch for the Antichrist because he is the chief deceiver, the chief liar. Okay. I won't read the whole passage in Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13 is talking about Antichrist. And he says, he used the word beast, and he has 10 horns and 7 heads. All right. Okay, I won't go through all of this. All right, you can go back and read it for yourself. But what I want to say is this Antichrist is given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. Conquer them. Okay? And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Now, the Antichrist, I use the word the, okay? And I'm not going to argue whether it's a political system because he talk about 10 horns and 7 heads. And later, in chapter 14, the horns and the heads were identified as kingdoms and kings and so forth. All right. Or is it an individual? Now, I'm not going to argue with that, but we know that there is the Antichrist in Second Thessalonians, a person. All right. Uh, who could come out from such a system. But my intention is not to talk about that today. But we do know whether you talk about it as a system or individual, the Antichrist will have global control and dominance. Okay. And the objective of the Antichrist is the subjugation of saints through political control. Okay. So you can see here, given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. So this authority, it's a political authority, it's a control. Okay. You have no control if you have no authority. So with this authority, he can have political control. Basically, what he wants, he gets. Okay. And then in the second bit of Revelation 13, it talks about this beast is another beast. We serve the first beast who can cause all who refuse the worship to worship the image to be killed. This image of the first beast. Okay. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and free, a free and slave to receive the mark. So this is the famous mark of the beast passage on their right hands, on their forehead, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. All right. And here it spells out that this is a number of a man, a person. Okay. Now I'm not going to go into the technology of what this mark is going to be. A decade ago, a few decades ago, they said, "Oh, it's a barcode," so it's a mark, or is this, or is that. But one thing is that it appears to be visible because without that you cannot buy or sell. Okay, so this is economic control. Controlling what you can buy or what you can sell is controlling economy. Okay, I mean, after all, what is economy, right? It's trade, isn't it? Right? Essentially, that is what economy is. So you cannot buy, you cannot sell, you are sunk, you are dead, you can't do anything. Okay. And you are starved because you can't buy food, all right, unless you grow your own. So this antichrist has political control, he has got economical control. Okay. Of course, politics and economy, they're interrelated. Okay. So and this antichrist has control of both. That makes him incredibly powerful. Okay. So we talk about power, right? What is power? In the book Future Shock, written by Alvin Toffler in 1970. By the way, it's an old book, but it's a very interesting book worth reading because in 1970, Alvin Toffler is what he call a futurist. He already foresee the use of handphone. He already foresee a lot of society changes that we have today. He already foresee the rate of information flow and how it impacts society and all that kind of things, right? And he wrote about it in the 1970s. But he talked about power, which is very interesting. So he said, in the future, where would the power reside? Okay. Before the Industrial Revolution, might was power. Basically, if you got an army, you are strong. You can go around, conquer, and whack everybody. Okay. Then came Industrial Revolution. It's not the military might that you have that make you strong. It's the capital, it's the money. Okay. Your money, you're stronger than army because you can buy a whole army. Okay. That's essentially what happens because how the British go colonize. All right. They didn't need of course they have strong army, but more importantly they have capital. All right, so they go around the world colonizing a lot of places because they have the means to do it. All right, the capital to do it. They could build ships, they could build military equipment. Okay, they could hire mercenaries. All right, so the second historically the second phase of power resides in money, but today is not might or money that puts power for you. It is the mind or information. So who has the information will be the one with the power. This is post-industrial revolution. Okay. So today, the big companies, Google, Amazon, and all these are capturing lots and lots of information. And with that, they make use of it. Okay, with that they make money, and of course with the money they can do lots of things. X, Elon Musk, net X, and then think about colonization and all that. They can generate wealth. Okay, sorry, a lot more slide than I thought. Maybe about 5 or 6 more. Okay, we need to understand the internet. All right, the internet is basically an interconnection of networks. So there are many networks in your home. There's a network. You got a mobile phone, you got computer, and nowadays it's wireless, which we connect to a router, and then the router connects to the other routers. Okay, and then the information goes from all over the world back to your home. Okay, and your mobile networks as well, and then institutional like companies, universities, all that have their own networks. And the internet is made up of few component hosts like your PC, your server, your wireless laptop, your smartphone. These are all hosts. Okay, and this is where you physically interface, all right, with the internet. Then there are communication links like wire. So so your hosts are connected by wires, or it could be connected wirelessly without wires. All right, connection means that you can communicate. All right, so like my laptop is communicating with my phone now. All right, and my phone can communicate with other phones or with my router. Okay, and routers and switches are the things that communicate, that connects you with the network. All right, from one network to another. Switches are used when you just connect, say, within an internal network, and routers are the one that connect you from your internal network to outside other networks outside. Okay, so those in the profession, and Peter can correct me later, talks about routers and switches and hosts and communication links. But the internet is also information transmission. Okay, and the technology today is packet switching. All right. Now, many of us think that when we send a file, it just goes through one pipe and goes all the way from one destination to another. Actually, it doesn't happen that way. What happens is your file, which is information, your video file, your text file, whatever, is broken up into small chunks, and then it's sent in chunks, right? Like packets. And they don't even go through the same route. They can go to one route. Let's say packet one goes to one route, packet two goes to another route. Then when it reaches the the devices on the other end, is put together again. That's how the internet works. That's why information can be transmitted so efficiently without errors, I think a lot of people don't appreciate that actually when we transmit signals, there's a lot of errors in there. Of course, there are error correction and things like that, but there are still errors, okay? But when you when you communicate in smaller packets, the chances of errors is slower and it goes through a lot faster also. So it's packet switching, all right? And then the last thing in the internet are protocols. They are basically languages that different devices, different software will use to talk to each other. Okay. And so you look at your network, you got hosts, you got devices, you got routers. So all of them are like talking different languages. So they need a protocol that is standardized so that they can talk to each other. Just like us, we have languages. So different country you go through, you talk different languages. So the machine is the same. So it's a whole bunch of these protocols, right? When you go to a website, there's HTTP. You hear of that? Actually, there's a protocol. There's a FTP, a file transfer protocol, and so forth, so forth. There are protocol to connect between the different networks. There are protocols for security. All right. So many, so many. Okay. So because of that, um, there are lots of these different ways of communication using different languages as understood by different devices, applications, and machines, and so forth. All right. The good thing is it creates lots of jobs for people. All right. In this area. Okay. And with the internet, you hear of what's called now the digital economy. All right. I won't talk about the rest because of time, but just focus on the left. You hear of fintech. All right. For example, your e-wallet, your touch and go, these are all fintech, right? Digital government. All right. Today, I hardly go to government offices to do anything. Okay. In the registration of the Christian Stamp Nexus, there are no forms for me to fill. I just go in and I put everything, I submit everything digitally. E-commerce, all right. All of us would know digital shopping, I think by now. Shopee, Lazada, Temu, and so much more. Okay. Taobao, all right. Trade marketplaces. Yes, you can also trade over the internet if you're doing business. Okay. Cloud kitchens, maybe we are not so familiar. You don't have to own a restaurant, okay? There are cloud kitchens where you can actually have a central kitchen and people who want to start a restaurant don't need to have buy chairs or table or anything. They just order the food and then you can deliver it and you call yourself a restaurant, okay? Vacation rentals, I think we all know Airbnb, right? You can have hotels without owning a hotel. You can run a hotel business without owning a hotel, right? Ride hailing, all of us know. Grab, okay. So many now. You got Soka, you got Asia Move, Asia Move, and etc. etc. Okay. Streaming content, of course, some of us are subscribing to Netflix and Prime and Disney and all that kind of thing. So these comprise the digital economy. All right. The internet makes things more efficient and increases productivity, so our life is easier. So what is the issue? The issue is our personal data is captured and stored. All of our data, there's so much of our data that's captured. And the other thing is the internet never forgets. All right. I was shocked. I was one of the early, adopters of the internet. I was a graduate student, in the late 1980s, and I sent my first message over the internet in the late 1980s. And in those days, there's no file transfer protocol and things. We use something called Kermit. I think many of you were not even born when Kermit was there, and we send a file. To send maybe a 1 kilobyte file, it maybe takes like 20 minutes, all right, over a dial-up modem. All right. So I lived through that era. And one day, I don't know why, I was doing something and I was searching for something. Suddenly my name came out. And then I followed the trail. How come my name came out? It was a post I made in a chat group more than 30 years ago. And it is still there, internet. I was shocked. I was in my mid late 20s then. And that message I sent was still there. The internet never forgets. All right. And all our data is captured. So information is power. And our personal information is in the internet. Now, the power can be benign. That means it works for good, or it can be malevolent. That means it's out there to do harm. Okay. So I want to tell you something, brothers and sisters, that the internet as used by the Antichrist will be a malevolent medium. All right. Now we use the word digital authoritarianism. For the first time in history, we have a tool that allows for mass control and domination on a global scale. It's already starting to happen. All right. I give an example. There's surveillance. We are being monitoring of online activity to track and control citizens. All right. It's happening in China. Okay. I have a lot of stories to tell you that people with real life experience actually what happens. They've got this social credit system. If you break the law, you don't even have to be caught. All right. Maybe I just say this one. And there was somebody who jaywalked. All right. And because of facial recognition technology, he was caught jaywalking. And then China, everybody use WeChat and there's money in the WeChat. Suddenly, the phone gives a notification, ding ding, we have just deducted 200 yen, okay, from your WeChat account. Why? You're jaywalking. And on top of that, you're minusing 2 points from your social credit score, okay? And you keep minusing, you keep breaking, any rule, you come a point where you cannot buy train tickets, you cannot book hotels and all sorts of things. So these privileges are taken away from you. This surveillance. There's censorship, there's propaganda, there's social media manipulation. All right. People are being fed news that are fake. Internet shutdowns, okay, and control online platforms. So for the first time in history, we have a tool that allow for mass control and domination on a global scale. Okay, or maybe global scale now is a bit of a stretch, but at least on quite a large scale, like a whole country like China, okay, can be monitored, tracked, and controlled. Okay. Uh the harbinger of things to come. Their system now, like the Great Firewall of China, India, the internet shutdowns when they don't like certain things, they just shut down the internet. You can't use it. Russia has a sovereign internet law. Vietnam has a cybersecurity law, and even the US, being a very liberal and open society, they got the Electronic Communication Privacy Act. Okay, it allows law enforcement agency to accept and cyberbullying, I think we read a lot in the news. This is a picture we just saw in the newspaper recently. This lady cyberbully somebody till the person commits suicide, and she's just given 100 ringgit fine. Okay, now cabinet got to work through and see what to do about this. Okay, and cyberbullying is actually very very prevalent. So apparently, a survey of Malaysian adolescents found that cyberbullying, they experience cyberbullying. 52% of them experience cyberbullying. Okay. So watch what your kids are up to on the internet. And Malaysia is ranked second in Asia in 2020 for cyberbullying among youth. All right. In involving 28 countries. Okay. In fact, it is a serious problem globally that UNICEF, a United Nations agency, okay, is actually paying attention to it. Okay. In the hands of man, the internet can be a harmful tool. In the hands of the Antichrist, I dare not even think about what he can do with it. All right. So the scripture tells of the Antichrist achieving global political economical control, as we read just now, and out to harm the saints. The technologies for him to do that, to do this exist now. Okay. There's some tips to guard yourself. Minimize your digital trail. Nothing is private on internet. Don't think we are so clever, we can do all these privacy settings and you're safe. It's not. I did all of that. And yet one day in a very private family group, one of the posts I made there came out and I don't know how. All right. So the tip is reduce your exposure on the internet, minimize your postings on social media, delete stuff, delete your personal information that is not needed. Okay. Go Google my activity and you'll be surprised. I showed it to a friend. Every single thing that he touched Google with, every single activity came up. What website he browsed, which Google Maps site he chose, all the searches, everything. Okay. Any unnecessary post in the social media, take it out. All right. And secure your PC as best as you can. Strong password, two-factor authentication, social media settings, app setting, and cookies and so forth. Now, you cannot avoid the internet. It's a tool that you need to use. But at the same time, it is there waiting to just trap you and just harm you, right? Just like the scripture we read about being trapped, okay? So we don't want to be trapped. We want to be watchful and use the internet to continuously learn, to keep ourselves and also to keep ourselves updated and also our apps updated. All right. Okay. So I think with that, I just want to end off with two scriptures. The first one is in Second Peter's. It says, "The day of the Lord will come like a thief," as we read just now. "The heavens will disappear, will roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare." If I'm given a chance, I'll talk about this because there are astronomical elements inside there that is not worthy for you all to realize, but not today because you don't have time. Since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people you ought to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives. Okay. Now, all the learnings eschatology is not going to do much for us if we don't live holy and godly lives. As Jesus taught us to watch with the purpose that we can stand, we can live holy and godly lives. It's not about all the theology, about eschatology and so forth. It's about the life we live. All right. And lastly, in Revelation 22, verse 12, "Look, I am coming soon, my reward is in me, and I will give each person according to what they have done."
Sorry, Dr. Kong, I think I got disconnected once again. Uh, I think we'll now go to the Q&A session. Right, so if there's any questions from,
I think you're here. You want to chip in on anything?
okay, I think uh, I think I think first of all, it's very true in the sense that like the internet is very useful for us, and in the same time can be used for benevolence. Um, I think there's still a lot of aspects that, like, as a Christians, how do we to what extent should we be like watchful in terms of internet, because there's still a lot of things that we have to use internet for, or like even like Google accounts, how much information should we share and things like that. uh because like if for me, I'm working, and a lot of uh let's say I'm something, then they need my account, they need my information. So a lot of times we tend to share this information unknowingly. um so I think my thoughts is how much can we refrain from sharing all these personal informations. Because I've seen also some of our brothers and sisters, they are very particular. They don't have any WhatsApp, they don't want to have any everything is on old emails and things like that. So uh is there a need for us to totally shut off things like even like WhatsApp, things like that? What do
Okay,
you
Peter just got it.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. I will start first, then maybe I'll redirect the question to Peter. I think he's more qualified to answer that. But
Okay.
I'm just sharing my own personal practice. Uh, I want to mention about the Amish. I don't know whether you all know about the Amish. They were a community that really shuns modern technology. They don't use cars. They ride on horse carts. They don't even have electricity because they consider anything modern as evil, right? Uh, it stems from my own profession as a scientist and technologist, and I hold the view that technology is benign. Okay, that means that it's neutral. All right, it's how it's used that determines whether it's going to be harmful or it's going to be useful. For example, nuclear technology, very useful. You can get a lot of energy. All right, and energy it's needed and required, but at the same time you can also use the same technology to make a nuclear bomb and kill millions of people, right? So that's how I view the internet as well. Now the thing now is that when you have a tool, you can use it properly and carefully, or you can use it simply and dangerously. Okay. And whether it's safe for us or it's dangerous for us is up to us. It's like how we drive as well, right? The automobile is a fantastic technology. It has brought mobility to us, to mankind. But we can drive dangerously or we can drive safely, right? And because of the rate of advancement of the internet technology, we don't have enough time to properly respond. So what do? We follow the crowd. Okay. So my own practice is, for safety, whatever information I don't need to give out, I don't do it. Right. And I only give out the information that I feel is necessary. Okay. And even then, there's no safeguard. Okay. Now I'll give one example. At one time, I was also very taken up by Facebook because, wow, so good. I reconnected a lot of friends. Fantastic, right? Then, of course, in my span of the career, I would have made some enemies, right? I mean, maybe I didn't hire them. Maybe I didn't give them the project they wanted. Maybe I didn't write the report they wanted me to write, to put them in good light. They were actually people stalking me in the background, okay, and posting nasty things. And they were not true. But of course, when people read it, uh, human nature will human nature. All right. The saucy, the negative things is the one that latch on. All right. The good things of people, that's boring. Oh, but this guy got some scandal. Why everybody jump on it, you see? And then I got hacked twice. Okay. And because of being hacked twice, I got bombarded with so many messages from people I do not know. Okay. And so in the end, I decided, nope, I'm out of Facebook. My account is still there, but I don't post anything anymore. I keep the account because a lot of people still send message to me through Messenger from my past life. So I keep it there for that purpose, but I don't post anything, right? And also that's my way of minimizing my digital trail. Same like WhatsApp as well. Sometimes you think that you're posting something innocent, but you don't know how it's read or misread. Okay. Okay. So Peter is back again. So Peter, Wei Xiang was asking the question about the use of the internet, and then we have no choice because it's a necessity tool now. So how do we go about it? But I'm just sharing my own thoughts and experience. But Peter Ho is probably the more experienced guy here. Yeah. Mm. Peter, you want to chip in here?
Yeah, I hear what you really was saying, as in the internet is a tool, and what happens if we decide to not use it? I think that's also a choice. Yeah, the networks, and then like 40 days of fasting is coming up, right? That's a really good time to experiment with this. And almost every time I come out with rural areas and all that, those who are not internet savvy, right? They still need pen and paper services, which the government of the day is willing to provide. And probably I have relatives who choose not to indulge in e-commerce at all, right? Doesn't buy anything online. Sometimes they get me to buy it for them, right, through a proxy. So I think it's possible to make that choice to be a modern day Luddite, if you want. Yeah. But whether that is totally beneficial is also debatable. You be would still say be at a somewhat of a disadvantage in terms of the things that you're able to do, the knowledge at your fingertips. And now with generative AI, it just gets worse. I would dare say that the version of me without the internet and Gen AI is considerably more stupid than the version of me that is plugged into the matrix. So that's a choice. You can choose to not make use of it, but I would still say that you would put yourself at a disadvantage, which then leads to the whole idea of having that digital divide and how do we figure out strategies to navigate that, right? good story in particular would be my experiences when we were setting up internet facilities for kids in boarding schools in the interiors of Sabah. In Sabah, there are boarding schools simply because some of the children live many tens of kilometers away from school, and it's not feasible for them to walk daily. So the churches have been setting up boarding schools where the kids can stay and go to school easily, right? So you would think that having internet in those places is beneficial. Yes and no. More no than yes. Because once they get access to internet, then all the social media use be set to student rather than it being a avenue of learning. Yeah. I hope I've not been rambling, but to answer your question, is it? I think yes, it's possible to live without the internet, but to do so means willingly putting up with, yeah, at the very least, inconveniences. But I think in today's age, you are also setting yourself up to be tremendously disadvantaged. Yeah. So it's a choice to be made. Yeah. So
Alright.
those sessions like this are really good because you make an informed choice and you learn how to safeguard yourself. Thanks.
I give another perspective on it is that yes, it's a tool that's potentially harmful to us, but if we don't learn how to use it, then the harm would be even greater. So we need to understand what's happening, and even more so because especially those of us who are counselors and mentors and all that, I can tell you, I don't know of any young people is not into it in a very massive way, right? When massive, I mean in terms of time, hours and hours they will spend on it. And so we need to understand the environment that will. So like the art of war says, you got to know your enemy. So if the enemy is going to use this tool, then we better know what this tool is about so that we can counter them, right? Uh, and sometimes it gets worrying that I'm following a counter view. Yes, the choice is there, but I think the choice is we need to understand this tool, and in order to do that, you actually got to make use of it. All right. So but we got to do it as safely as we possibly can. Right. So that's my view. Yeah. We cannot run away from technology. We have to be in it so that we can watch it. Right. To shun it is like, hey, the bullets are coming, and what do? Close our eyes. And there's one sure way to get ourselves whacked. But if we know what this tool is about, what it can do, how it does it, then at least we got some ways to help ourselves and help other people, right? Yeah. And sometimes in the process, we'll get hurt, you get scammed, or we hear messages, by speakers and pastors or whatever that is not correct. But then we correct ourselves from there, okay, and we defend ourselves. But if we don't do that, then when the same message hits somebody, we cannot tell them, hey, look, it's not biblical, because we have not seen it ourselves, right? But if we know about it, then we can immediately jump. Yeah, I know, I heard this speaker before, avoid this guy because he teach a lot of false things, you see, right? Mm. So that's my take of it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. Kong, and also Dr. Peter.